Win is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Set and away they go. Prowess stomps up, took the front, Prowess, and Prowess just beat Antino. Racing in the Cox Plate. Photo finish. Romantic Warrior has got up by a nose. Ready, and away they go. And the Tangerine Tsunami's going to do it again. Imperatriz won it well.
A Cox Plate day for the ages, a Tangerine Tsunami at the Valley and a Kiwi double on the day. All of that to come on Weigh In this morning. Michael Guerin joins me. A very good morning to you. A pretty exciting Saturday afternoon for everyone in New Zealand.
I think good morning, Em. A big hi to everybody watching around the country or further afield. Pretty exciting, pretty fun for a lot of New Zealanders. That real rush of adrenaline, not only from Imperatriz but from Prowess, who's a very popular horse. James obviously is a Kiwi winning the Cox Plate. So a feel-good day, and it raises so many questions, Em, about what next for Imperatriz and where does she sit in the global scale, even in the champion sprinters ranks. We'll try and answer some of those questions today, talk about one of the more sensational races in recent years at Pukekohe. A lot to unpack out of that as we head forward to Riccarton. Also a chance to catch up in the last segment with Ken Kelso, because as good as last weekend was, Ken Kelso has a proper New Zealand trained winning chance in a $10 million race, the Golden Eagle, coming up this Saturday. They leave tomorrow, he and Legato. We'll talk to Ken in segment 3.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. For now, though, let's get into our race replays. And as you might have guessed, we start with Imperatriz in the Manicato.
Coming up to the turn at the 350. Uncommon James hooked to the outside from I Am War, who's almost going backwards, passed by the Inferno and I Am Me, but Imperatriz glides around the corner. 3 lengths in front of Uncommon James, then I Am Me up the middle, but Imperatriz called upon, still 3 lengths in front, and the Tangerine Tsunami's going to do it again. Imperatriz won it well. Second, I Am Me, Uncommon James or the Inferno for third. A gap to I Am.
She was at her dynamic best. She's taken out all of the feature sprints at the Valley now with her success in the Manicato on Cox Plate Day. And David Ellis joins us on the phone. David, a very good morning to you. Thanks for being on Weigh In this morning. Where did you get to watch Saturday's race?
Well, actually, I was working on the farm on Saturday morning, and then I went over to Raglan with half a dozen mates, and we watched the races at Riccarton counties and at Moonee Valley. So it was a pretty exciting afternoon.
David, I'm sure you're a bit like me in the fact that when you saw Imperatriz leading, you were thinking that wasn't potentially the plan. Talk us through the run of the race and your thoughts.
Well, I think that I thought she'd be quite handy today over 1,200 metres, and we basically leave Mark to do the riding instructions with Opie. He doesn't need to be told much. He's one of these guys that does a lot of form himself and studies the field, and so we're best just to leave it to him. But it was pretty exciting when you looked at the turn and you could see she was just cruising and everything else was under a pretty vigorous ride. So, yeah, it was just a very exciting day, and what makes it even more exciting is at this time of the year, working with horses is hard work. Like at the Matamata track this morning, it was blowing a gale and raining, but the staff do it. They front up every morning, and they're just unbelievable, the hard work that they put in. So a result like Imperatriz is great for them and also for the owners. And the incredible thing about Imperatriz is she was the last yearling to sell that year.
David, you've been associated and purchased a number of top performers, Group 1 winners, multiple Group 1 winners. Where does Imperatriz sit for you amongst those?
Well, she's certainly up there with the likes of Probabile and Avantage and Melody Bell. And I was telling somebody yesterday, those 4 horses have won 34 Group 1 races. So it's very hard to pick one out against the other. They've all got special thoughts and abilities and distances, etc. But she's as good a sprinter as we've seen for a while, that's for sure.
David, good morning. Thank you for joining us. We want to move the story forward a touch because so many people love the mare and they want to think, well, what happens next? What happens next year? So let's go next step. Champion Sprint on November the 11th. I take it that's the race. I know you've had overtures from people involved with the Quokka in WA. So yes, Champion Sprint. I take it it's no to Perth.
Yeah, we've decided that we'll definitely go to the $3 million sprint on the last day of the Flemington Carnival, and we'll probably give her a spell after that, and then we'll have a really good team talk and come up with a plan with what we do with her in the autumn.
Okay, David, I presume that plan means going back to Australia for maybe races like the Newmarket. Is there any chance you would return to Sydney to potentially take on a TJ Smith with a view to next year's Everest?
Definitely we'd look at that. We'll sit down and have a team talk, and we'll come up with a plan. But we're just focused at this stage on the race at Flemington in 12 days.
All right, David, the Everest is such a giant race, Australasian wide now. You chose not to go this year. You are open to an Everest and slot negotiations, and I know they're not going to happen anytime soon, but you're not opposed to going to the Everest long term, and is that a race which you would like to target next year when maybe she's more mature and has spent more time in Australia?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we'll look at for sure.
Okay, David, the other big question for very good Australasian sprinters is Royal Ascot. Now, you and Karen have been to Royal Ascot. You've had a Royal Ascot winner. Is it worth it with a mare, so no stallion potential, obviously, to take them to Royal Ascot for what's effectively a $2 million New Zealand stake on the Saturday? Or does it not have the same payoff for a female?
It doesn't have the same payoff for a colt that you can stand in both hemispheres, but it's still a pretty exciting thing to do for the owners, and something that we would like to do sometime. And when you've got a world-class trainer like Mark Walker and Sam Burgesson, you want to be on the world stage to promote New Zealand to the rest of the world. So it's something that we'll certainly be having a talk about.
Okay. Is it something you want to do? I mean, you're in charge of this horse effectively. I know there's a syndicate, but you have to make the decisions. Are you keen to take Imperatriz, all going well, to Ascot next year?
I'm certainly keen to look at it.
All right, David, let's move it even further down the line, because let's hope she races for another couple of seasons. Eventually, most syndicate horses for Te Akea are sold, and they tend to be sold on a Gavel House Plus type situation. Is that the plan for Imperatriz? Or if out of the blue, Coolmore or Yulong or somebody else came up with a big juicy offer, does that get considered?
Well, as you know, we got the world online auction record when we sold Avantage on Gavel House, and we've found Gavel House an unbelievably efficient way of selling horses. They promote them around the world in a very effective manner. But we're really not looking that far ahead just yet. But the syndicate is a racing syndicate, and she will be sold one day. But the dream result would be for a New Zealand stud to buy her.
Dave, we've got New Zealand Cup week fast approaching, and I think it'd be timely of us to have a chat to you about your chances during that week. And I guess importantly, jockey bookings. Obviously, Opie Bossom being overseas in Australia during that period. Just talk us through who you've got engaged for some of those key races.
So in the 2000 Guineas, we've got Trobriand, who'll be ridden by Michael McNabb. Taliska, who'll be ridden by Sam Weatherly. The following Saturday in the 1000 Guineas, we've got Star of Justice, who'll be ridden by Opie, and Viva Vienna, who'll be ridden by Sam Weatherly. In other black type races, we've got Marzipan in the listed 2,600 lead up to the New Zealand Cup. Marzipan will be ridden by Michael McNabb. The Mighty Spa will be ridden by Cosy Asano, and Pegasus, Warren Kennedy will ride Shayla, and Dancerine will be ridden by Craig Grills.
Okay, David, ready to run sales are just around the corner. We know you don't mind a trip to Karaka. Is that a sale that you and your team will be working, and will you be buying there?
Yes, we'll certainly be looking to buy there. It wasn't that long ago that we bought Group 1 winners, Hall of Fame and Ginger Nuts in the one season, and we'll be trying to do that again this year for sure.
David, I read an article in Australia yesterday where Mark Walker suggested that this time next year he could be living in Australia and running the Cranbourne barn, which I presume would mean Sam Burgesson would run the New Zealand barn. What's your thought process? I know some of these things may not quite work out that way, but what's your thought process for the next 2 years for Te Akau and the size of the horse numbers in either country?
Well, at the start of the season, I said that I wanted to take Te Akau to the next level. That's buying some more really good yearlings. We're going to buy a few proven horses out of Europe to race in the staying races in Australia. But also, we're very focused on our 2 and 3 year olds and Karaka Million Night, and we've got some really nice chances to race that night. We've got probably our best lot of 2 year olds that we've had for a long time, and we've got horses like Tokyo Tycoon, Wild Night that are coming back up really well.
David, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been great to get your thoughts on Imperatriz and the business as a whole, and best of luck for the upcoming races, the Champions Sprint, of course, and New Zealand Cup week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, tremendous there, Em. And obviously, I know it's not very often, and it's a long way away, that we have a New Zealand trained horse go to Ascot. But
can we just spend a moment on that? That's pretty exciting.
Well, maybe they'll take the jockey. Maybe you'll get a trip.
My fingers crossed.
That'd be tremendously exciting. But even the Champion Sprint's very exciting. The new market, the fact you could go to the TJ, which would be a nice setup for next year's Everest. And I know all of these things are a long way away. We're not saying they're going to happen, but you've got to have plans. Just back to the win. She hit a top speed in the race of 70.3 kilometres an hour. It's incredibly rare gallopers get above 70 kilometres an hour. The 400 between the 600 metres and the 200s went by in 22.6 seconds. That's about as fast as they go. So absolutely flying. I do think she was so good, it's easy to get carried away with the opposition. I think they're pretty good horses, but there was no I wish I win. The Everest horses weren't there. Brunus Not just got pulled out of the race. So I
guess I wish I win. Think about it in secret. I mean, is there much else in Australasia at the moment that you would be, that she hasn't beaten? Maybe
Private Eye. I'm not saying, by no means, just when you start talking about horses being in Black Caviar's league, you say, well, what are they beating at the moment? Look, she gets a chance to go to another level, because clearly she's gone to a higher level. Like, she was beating Babylon Berlin by a nose in the railway. Now she's beating comparable horses by 3.5 lengths. So I think the champion sprint will be a really good indicator of where she sits in their pecking order, but obviously she's an absolute superstar. And then you say next season, does she get to become a global superstar? So there's lots more in front of her, but I think you've got to trust your gut and your eye, and everybody watching the show saw the same thing. It was stunning and dramatic, and we saw Opie's reaction, a really amazing experience for all New Zealand racing fans. And the most exciting part is the promise of so much more to come.
Yeah, and the mare herself, she just loves racing. I was looking at her there on Saturday. You can see how much she thrives off the attention and the spotlight. Great stuff, and best of luck to the connections in the champion sprint. We talked about a Kiwi double at the start of the show, and that, of course, was Prowess, who was successful in the Crystal Mile.
There's a gap for Prowess if she's good enough, and then Banker's Choice Antino runs up behind them. Tuvalu just in front of Prowess, Antino the inside, and Just Folk hanging tough. Prowess stomps up, took the front, Prowess, and Prowess just beat Antino. Third Tuvalu, fourth Just Folk from Banker's Choice, and Mustang Valley was last of the 6.
It was a nice win, wasn't it, by Prowess. We know what she can do. She's the winner of the Vinery Stud Stakes over 2,000 metres, and this was a nice little race for her, and she was in contention in the market without being heavily fancied, but she just showed the quality that she has.
He's riding in such amazing form, Mark Zara. He punched her out of the gates, stayed there long enough to follow the right horse, and then without losing much momentum got off the rails. It was just magnificent stuff. She heads to the Champion Stakes, which is the former McKinnon. That's 2,000 metres in 12 days' time. And it's going to be a really strong field. It was last year, but we may not see the Cox Plate horses back up. Last year, Animo went Cox Plate into the Champion Stakes. I don't think Romantic Warrior will turn up there. So,
although I did hear post race them saying that they still felt there was improvement to come from Romantic Warrior.
Look, I suppose they also
two-run campaign.
Well, they also have the option to potentially go home to Hong Kong, because there's obviously International Day in December. So I just get the feeling he won't turn up there, and the market would suggest that. Look, I presume those horses don't scare Prowess. When you look at the market, they wouldn't seem to scare her. So that's another step up for her, but great to see her back. Very popular horse, and she has options. She's probably a factor from 1,600 to 2,000, and there's an awful lot of races between 1,600 and 2,000. Mustang Valley got back in a muddling race. Nothing went right for her. I think she would be more potent if there's a bit of rain somewhere during the carnival. Yeah. So, yeah, Andrew has options again. He could, I don't think he'll back her up in the Empire Rose, but he had the option to, or he could go to the Matriarch on the last day, or of course he can go to the Champion Stakes as well. But great for Roger and Robert. They've had a really interrupted spring with this mare, and to have her back means they can look forward to the rest of the season with a horse they know is not only back, but also getting better.
Exactly, and will only get better with time. It was good to see a stakes double as well for the Hallmark Stud team. Of course, also a graduate of their farm was Impendabel. Well done to them with Prowess and Impendabel. Well, let's talk about the Cox Plate. It was an international victory in 2023. Romantic Warrior from Hong Kong.
4 deep, a length and a half off them. Mr. Brightside off the fence, needs room, and then came Jewess into the straight. Alligator Blood at the 200 took the front. Romantic Warrior the outside. Alligator Blood at the 100. Romantic Warrior, Mr. Brightside. Still Alligator Blood. Mr. Brightside coming at it with Romantic Warrior. It's a photo finish. Mr. Brightside or Romantic Warrior.
This horse is pretty special to me, and when I mentioned to come to the Cox Plate, I think he'd be the perfect horse. I meant what I said, and Danny, credit to Peter and Danny, like, takes a hell of a lot of balls to come out of Hong Kong with all the prize money. One of the best racing jurisdictions in the world, and they come here and showcase their boy. I reckon he's got more to come too. He's just been bubbling. He made significant amount of improvement like we thought he did. And he loves the bloody valley.
It took the full 2040 to win it, as it does in most Cox Plates, but how did the position you found early set things up?
I was comfortable. I knew I was on the right horse, and there was people I was talking during the week that just kept going, he's the best horse, and now ride him like it. And I took a gamble about the 1,000 or 1,200 and elected to come back a spot, and to this right minute right now, I believe that was the winning move. Giving my horse an extra length to come back, I let Legato knowing that I think I still can beat him by letting him out and having last crack, and yes.
Yeah, beautifully surmised there by James McDonald. Great assessment of the race. I'll be honest with you, Michael, I thought Mr. Brightside was home. He was ridden so well by Craig Williams, but never rule out the international contenders on the line. Threw the horse over the line and got the win.
A hell of a performance from everything you have to do to get the horse here and to even bother trying. I'm picking they're not the sort of people who need the money. And the money in Hong Kong is so good, he could have easily stayed there because most Hong Kong gallopers do these days. He worked enough to mean that it was a no excuses performance because, you know, he's obviously worked harder than the other horses who have been in the finish. Wonderful ride by James. Like, he really shoves him forward here at the line. It really extends his body. During the call, Matty Hill suggested they weren't going that quick because they didn't look to be going that quick. They were actually going very, very fast. Like, the overall time was 2:03.16, which doesn't mean a lot to you because your brain goes, well, what's 2040 mean? It's the third fastest time this millennium. The only horse to go faster than that in a Cox Plate this millennium is Winx, twice. Now, when she did it the first time in 2015, she was up against the aluminium. That's the one where they all went wide and she pushed her on the inside. So she didn't cover the ground Romantic Warrior covered. And of course, being a mare, she carried less weight. She did the same thing in 2017 when she beat Humidor, but she was out on the line. It's as close as she came to be beaten in the last 3 years of her career. So Romantic Warrior has won, if you put the times up, and obviously there's more important things than times, he would have won every other Cox Plate in the last 23 years. So when you think only Winx has gone quicker, pretty remarkable stuff. And so good for Hong Kong and so good for the rest of us when we watch Hong Kong because we now have a reference point when we see him versus Golden 60 and other horses. You go, okay, I know what that means now. Because sometimes I think when we watch Hong Kong, Em, I don't know about you, but I struggle to work out what they're beating. We now know. So really, in many ways, even though it may not have an emotional connection for New Zealanders, it is a race for the ages, because if we start bringing more Hong Kong horses and more Japanese horses, and we'll talk about Equinox later, to the Cox Plate, it just makes it that much more relevant. In saying that, it would have been nice for Mr. Brightside to win too. Yeah,
it was a Cox Plate for the ages. I think it was such a great race, wasn't it? And Romantic Warrior out on top, and be interesting to see what they do with him next, whether they head on home or they stick around for one more run. Let's head up to Randwick now, and the Invitation was one of the features on the card, taken out by Espiona.
Dame scrubbed up on the outside of Royal Merchant. Espiona's getting right to the outside and coming home with a very good run. Alcohol Free moved up, hit the lead. Magic Time keeps coming. Espiona's lengthening on the outside with Ruthless Dame knuckling down. What a great finish here. Espiona trying to shake off Ruthless Dame. Magic Time's brave. Espiona laying in, nose in front, just won it. Espiona just won the Invitation from Ruthless Dame and Magic Time. Alcohol free. Well,
we know Espiona's quality, and she edges out some fierce competition to get the Invitation for Kerrin McAvoy. Important win for Kerrin McAvoy. He's been bubbling under the surface, and no doubt this will be just what he needs.
Actually, in her last 5 wins, she's had 5 different jockeys, which is really unusual for a horse at this level. Often they stick around, but of course, there's a lot of Victoria, Sydney, people being in different places at different times. So she was 7th in the Everest. And I think, while it might sound obvious, I think the Everest form will stack up this year, because there were a lot of horses who were very good horses in there who had no luck, and they have disparate targets. They have different places they can go to. So, and there's also a lot of horses in the Everest who aren't just nature strip. They're not 1,200 horses. Private Eye can go to 14. I think there's quite a few other horses, as we just saw with Espiona, who could extend to 14. So, yeah, when you see her 7th coming out and winning a $2 million race next start, makes you wonder what's going to happen next with all the other horses who finished in front of her. So, yeah, as you said, good for Kerrin, because he hasn't had many big winning chances. Still a little bit sad in some ways that we're dividing Melbourne and Sydney in half. It makes for a great day as a viewer, but you do start going to yourself, like I watched the Invitation, I was like, okay. It happened, there's so much going on at the Valley, it just was another thing. It's hard to keep up with.
$2 million races on the card, it's incredible really, isn't it?
And the other one was the easiest winner outside Imperatriz you'll see all weekend. Tom Kitten was just amazing.
Yeah, let's get to that now. Tom Kitten winning the Group 1 Spring Champion Stakes.
Tom peeling forward as they straighten. Raff attack with a bit of a kick. The stablemate Gambare giving chase. Tom Kitten rounding them up. So's Port Lockroy on the outside and Tuda Levita running on. Tom Kitten got to the front. 200 metres to run and Tom's going strongly. Look at Tom go. 2, 3, 4 in front. Capra down the outside in a second, but that's the best of Tom Kitten today. A much-deserved Group 1 victory. Tom Kitten won the Spring Champion in a cakewalk from Capra and Gambare.
I think Darren Flindell hit the nail on the head. A well-deserved Group 1 victory for Tom Kitten. He's been running some really good races of late, been very competitive against the other 3-year-olds, and this was a well-deserved win, and it's an important springboard into the Victorian Derby, isn't it?
Well, when you look at a horse win by that much, you think, well, are the others any good? And I suppose time will tell. But over 2,000 metres, he went 2:1.2, so he's gone quick. That's really quick for a 3-year-old. But he's not going to the Victoria Derby, so they made their decision. I suppose when you're Godolphin, you've got enough money behind you, you don't need to chase Victoria Derbies. So he was favourite for the Victoria Derby, which is this Saturday, immediately after that. And then they pulled him out last night. So Riff Rocket, who was beaten last start, now goes back to the head of the market for the Victoria Derby. And Tom Kitten, you would suggest maybe they could stretch him to a Derby in the autumn, but
I don't know, yeah, the 2000 seems his sweet spot, doesn't it?
Well,
or 18, 16 to 2000.
Well, you say to yourself, are you better off sticking to 2000 and going to a Queen Elizabeth? But of course, that's a long way in the future. Most important for you at home, he's not going to be in the Derby this Saturday.
Great stuff. Let's get you to a break here on Weigh In, and we leave you with some other New Zealand bred winners from Randwick.
Conductor making hard work of it out wide on the red side winkers. IPO's darting up the inside. At the 300, Cecil Street Lad 2 lengths clear. Flat to the boards, Lancaster Bomber, Vindication. IPO making good ground towards the inside. Chief Conductor won't run a place, but Cecil Street Lad a good leader. Cecil Street Lad 50 out from Vindication. IPO's lifting in the middle. IPO burst through and got up. Russian Conquest pulling up. Bunker Hut the rails. Then fall for Cindy, and Gringotts has got plenty of chasing to do. There's a gap between runners if good enough. Portray still in front. Of Russian Conquest is just about on term. Now Gringotts is coming off into the clear. Russian Conquest got to a narrow lead. Gringotts is surging home. Russian Conquest betray. Gringotts the outside.
Open, they're on. Well, Liberon has almost ended up in the outside fence. Impendable with an incident back Soliloquy.
It was a drama-filled Soliloquy Stakes, and we're going to sink our teeth into that very shortly. It was a great day at Pukekohe, Michael. A number of features, and we're going to really get into which horses are going where when it comes to New Zealand Cup week.
Usually, I think everybody starts thinking with a race like the Soliloquy about the 1,000 guineas and what it means. And yes, we'll touch on that, but clearly there was a bigger story. It was such a jarringly unusual thing to see. So let's watch it a couple of times and try and analyse what happened here.
We've got to analyse the winner and the beaten horses, and then there's
the inquiries and who's going where. So here's the Jamison Park Soliloquy. A couple of different versions coming up.
Soliloquy Stakes, and it's Luberon the leader. From on the outside, Tulsi. 2 lengths away, Impinda Bell. Further back in the field, then Sudbina. Mary Shan further away, then to Livid Sky and Glamour Tyco. Oh, Luberon has almost ended up in the outside fence here. She's going to go through the outside rail. Sensation, she's thrown it away. Impinda Bell's made the lead from Tulsi. Running on, Molly Bloom and Mary Shan. Impinda Bell in front. Impinda Bell will win the Soliloquy, an incident-packed Soliloquy. Impinda Bell from either Mary Shan and Molly Bloom.
Well, that was the Soliloquy Stakes. Of course, victory goes to Impinda Bell, and let's just sort of dissect that victory for a start. Tony Pike, Cosi Asano combining. In behind the speed, out of trouble, got a well-deserved win.
Nice performance. Another win for Hallmark Stud. They had 2 stakes winners on the day, as you said. Cosi gets suspended for letting the horse come across them late, which didn't actually affect the result, but tightened up another couple of runners. They were all really good. Most of them are going to Rickenham. We'll get to that shortly. But the whole story of the race, the thing that everybody was talking about was Luberon. So we've got some remarkable head-on footage. You know who she is. She's in the Cambridge stud colours. She starts to drift. Celine Gaudry is riding the horse. Most importantly, as you watch this, and it doesn't make you feel good as a horse lover, is that she is fine. Both Celine and the horse are fine. I spoke to Lance Noble yesterday, some minor skin off the horse. They are pressing on to the 1,000 guineas. So this is not something you're seeing a horse hurting itself. You're seeing a horse getting a hell of a shock.
And how grateful are we for plastic rails that they could move with her, and because we previously have had metal running rails, and that the result wouldn't have been the same.
It wouldn't have been. So many people think, well, what happened there? Well, let's get first to Luberon. That's not the first time she's had a trick up her sleeve. Warren Kennedy is a very experienced rider, and he rode her last start at Matamata, and she was wobbling all over the place. So this isn't the first time she's played a trick. Celine Gaudry had only ridden twice right-handed before that, so she wouldn't have had much experience pulling the whip through to the other hand. She wouldn't need to, because she rides predominantly left-handed. So she's not the only apprentice in the world who wouldn't have had time, or plenty of senior jockeys for that matter, to get from one hand, because clearly the horse ran away from the whip. She gave it a tap, it ran away, it didn't know what to do, and she didn't have time to put the whip through to the other hand to correct the horse. Now, again, it's easy to pick on her because she doesn't have a right-handed experience, but as I said, Warren struggled to control the horse the start before. So had she had the whip in the other hand, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Then again, maybe it would have run the other way. We don't know the answer to that. But for people watching at home who are novices, and I spoke to a few jockeys yesterday, so this isn't my opinion, that's what it was doing. It was running away from the whip, but she's also run away inside and outside the start before. So Celine controlled the horse as best she could. Horse is okay, Celine's okay.
Had she not run out, she looked like she was going to win by a country mile, didn't she? She was cruising coming into the straight.
And she also affected a couple of other horses, because Tulsi and Impinda Bell both lost their bearings because they were following a horse who went that way. So then Impinda Bell got a bit lost, and then we'll get back to the finish of the race and show you the part that did pay some dividends. So here's Impinda Bell in the lime green colours, and it starts to come down, and it squeezes up a little bit Molly Bloom and Mary Shan, who got checked earlier when the field compounded in the middle stages when the tempo went out of the race. They all got a bit involved. Now,
Molly Bloom had the flashing light for a horse who was going to come with a barnstorming late run and get over the top of them, and who screams 1,600 metres is going to be ideal.
Well, and Mary Shan's by Almanzor, so you would suggest she is also going to be suited. So let's just go back to what happened there. So Cosi got suspended for a few days for allowing his horse to come down so much. Again, no horses were injured. Let's go through the market. We spoke to everybody yesterday.
You did, Michael. I didn't. You spoke to everybody. You gave me a credit where I didn't need it.
No, we're a team. You guys cut my head off and I do all the work. I totally understand. This is how it works on the show. We've all got our roles to play. You got the fan club. I have no head.
You're the phone person on the phone.
Molly Bloom is going to the 1,000 guineas. She's going. Joe Doyle will ride. Luberon is going. Now, she has to trial, obviously, after taking out the outside rail. Lance Noble doesn't have a lot of trials to play with up here. She may fly south earlier and trial at Ashburton. Warren Kennedy will do the riding. Mary Shan is going. Andrew Forsman said, yep, Maybe she's an Oaks horse, but we're going to give her a crack because she's going to handle 1600. Suggested there that she'll have the same rider there, so Mary Shan and Penderbeal. They have a few rider issues, but I think Cozzy will stay on her. Tony Pike said, yes, we are going. Bozo didn't race there. It is going to Riccarton. It's nominated for both, but I would suggest it's probably going to take on the fillies. Star of Justice, co-owned
We all know about that.
by my co-host and person who keeps me in line. Star of Justice is going, Opie will ride. Tulsi is also going. They are hopeful of having Michael McNabb on Tulsi. It is definitely going. Shanti Lace is going. Viva Vienna is going. They're going to ride her further back. Love and War is going. They're hoping to get Lisa Allpress on Love and War. Lock Katrine is not going. So Stevie Ortridge, no Lock Katrine, and spoke to Stephen Marsh this morning, and he said Glamour Tycoon unlikely to go. She'll head to the O'Leary brothers coming out of
Don't tell me you rung all the people on this page as well.
No, but I did ring Livid Sky, again, unlikely to go, and Stipulator, I would suggest, will be going. So,
Geez, Michael, you do a lot of work.
there's basically most of the good horses at the top of the market are going.
Right.
It's a very even 1,000 guineas, and most of them now have their riders sorted out, which is a big deal this time of year.
I don't want any extra words. I just want the winner. Who do you like? Just give me the name. No reasons why.
Star of Justice.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't mean that.
Let's move on to our next replay, and that is, I want to say Star of Justice, it's Desert Lightning. This is Desert Lightning in the Dunstan Horse Feeds over the 1200 metres. I went back, Michael, and looked at this horse's record. New Zealand Derby, won an Avondale Guineas, 3-year-old Karaka Million, second in a 2000 Guineas, fourth in a Sistema Stakes. He's been such a good horse for connections, and I know he's had a few niggles. They've got those right, and we saw what he knew.
Beat Legato home in the Karaka Classic, even though she was unlucky. So the big question for Peter Williams, a good training performance from Peter and Dawn to win with this horse, and really good ride from Vidi. He saw there was no tempo in the race, so he didn't sat outside the leader, and that won him the race. The question was, will they go to the Copelands or will they not go? They are not going. So no Copeland's Mile. He's in the market. He's third favourite, not going to Riccarton. He's going to head to the new TAB Classic, which is the former Captain Cook Stakes. So, and then he's going to head back. So Trentham for what was the Captain Cook, now the TAB Classic, then back for this race, which is shaping as one of the races of the season. You look at him and you go, hey, this is pretty meaty stuff. Legarto, Prowess, all those type of horses. He finished third in the same version of it last year, beating home horses like Legato. So that's the big aim for Desert Lightning, the Elsdon Park Aotearoa Classic, the new race, which of course is not confined to just Karaka sold horses, any horse eligible for that.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's move along to Riccarton, because we also had some feature races from there as well. The first race that we look at is the War Decree Stakes. Now, Burn to Shine was the winner of this one. I love this race because we get to see the 3-year-olds at the mile before the Guineas, and Burn to Shine showed that the 1600 is perfect.
Yeah, and it comes out of strong races like the Hawke's Bay Guineas where it worked hard. Smart ride, Jonathan Parks went forward and more forward than the key rivals. They were always going to go back on Troy-Began to help him get the 1600 and the Guineas. So he got tactical advantage. Jonathan will ride the horse in the 2000 Guineas, so the 2000 Guineas on the 11th of November, the first day of the carnival. So he rides the winner there, Burn to Shine. Troy Briand, as we heard, is heading there. Lantern Way, I think, would have liked a bit more juice in the ground. I would think so. Yeah. And of course, Crecchetti is the hot favourite. We'll have a feature on Crecchetti next Monday on Weigh-In. Emily's heading out today to talk to Danny Walker, Aaron Tarter and Daniel Narkley, and looking forward to finding out more about a horse who's sneaking under the radar a touch.
Sneaking under the radar, unbeaten?
No, but as in, we don't know a lot about...
We don't know about
most people, if you said to them, how many horses would Danny Walker and Aaron Tarter have in work? How big's their stable? What's their training philosophy? They won't know. We'll tell you next Monday.
Michael's given me a few questions for the interview. I'll note those down. Let's move on to the Copeland's Mile Trial. This was taken out by the very progressive It's Business Time. And Michael, as we look at this one, 5 in a row for It's Business Time, win 6 at start 9. A stakes winner in waiting, as we know, and this only confirmed that.
And beautiful ride by Sam, because when you're on $1.60 chance, it's really easy to panic and think you need to be out in the clear, and he waited for the gaps, pushed through. It is a lead-up race after all. So second horse was really good. They obviously both go to the Copelands. Just crucially with the Copelands, she's not going to be any worse off in the weights. because there's going to be about a 97, 98 top weight in the Copelands. She's going to be about, after that, I would think, an 86 or an 87 horse. She hasn't been re-rated yet, but that still puts 10 points between her and the top weight. Top weight 60 kgs, puts her down to 55 plus the mare's allowance. So she'll be on a nice light weight. She has a booking. Michael McNabb will ride It's Business Time in the Copelands.
Let's get along to the listed Soties Spring Classic. The open handicap over the 2,000 metres. Matt Scott was the winner of this one. If you're looking for an eye-catching type, wait till he runs over the top of them here to get the win. At this point, I was watching the replay. I didn't think he'd be any chance of winning, but just winds up, and gets that listed victory.
Beautifully tipped too by Matt Cross. One of his tips, he had a big day at the office. Tipping did Matthew. He's got a big week coming up with Cup Week. You're looking for the horse in the light blue, and it absolutely sprouts wings here. Sharon Robertson doesn't train a lot of horses, but she's got a good one here. They have options heading to Cup Week. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to head, but horse who's won on wet tracks, one on very dry tracks, as we saw on Saturday. It could end up being one of the more versatile and one of the better horses in the South Island.
It's a lovely big type, and has always sort of shown that potential, and good to see listed.
Good ride by Courtney Barnes, by the way, too.
Yeah.
I was talking to Sharon last night. She said Courtney's been a huge part of the education of this horse. And again, no need to panic, pull to the outside. She rode through the field. Good education for a horse like her.
Well, we've had many episodes of weigh-in where we've taken the mickey out of Michael, and we've made it legitimate. So here is taking the mickey out of Michael.
Oh, no.
So
Again.
I'm starting to think my co-workers on weigh-in, particularly the graphics team, don't take me seriously. Michael Kieran loves a mini pie. You've got feedback. People
I have.
watch the show.
Thank you, Maria Sanson, a legitimate friend and a person who does actually like mini pies. So Maria was at the races.
Us culinary champions got to stick together.
They are.
Pretend you didn't eat.
I'll tell you what, Breakfast of Champions, because Maria posted that from the races on Friday. She was having a mini pie, which clearly she does not have the weight issues that some jockeys do. Rode a winner Friday, came to Pukekohe, rode a winner on Saturday. Just goes to show you, Em.
What a mini pie can do.
Well, exactly. Look, we know what Bacon Buddies have done for your marriage, got you a share of a horse. So, yes, thank you, Maria. Hopefully one day I have a horse good enough to put you on and we can celebrate with a mini pie afterwards.
Oh, wow. We're going downhill here on Weigh-In, aren't we? Thank God we're going to a break. We'll leave you with a replay of the Road to the Jericho Eulogy Show, the winner of this one.
Prismatic now sees daylight behind the leader, then deals done as they turn for home. Eulogy showed the leader. Prismatic, Blood Diamond, Luscious Lover, Lochwinnock, and then came Wind in My Wings. Leader is Eulogy Show. Prismatic going to it. Blood Diamond sticking on strongly, and then came Luscious Lover from Wind in My Wings. Still Eulogy Show finding here. Lead to the neck on Prismatic. They're clear from Blood Diamond. Eulogy Show lifting and lifting hard. Put a half a length on Prismatic, who's not going to get past. Its Eulogy Show has outstayed them.
Wildcat Hagrid is still not the favorite. He's 3-1. Hagrid's the big burly guy in Harry Potter, right? My son and I watched one of the Harry Potter movies, I don't know, a week ago, maybe a little bit longer, and there was a scene in there where Hagrid introduced the kids from Hogwarts to some creature, some big menacing looking creature like half kangaroo, half dinosaur. The thing can fly. Could eat you, could stomp you, the whole 9 yards. I guess this thing can immediately sense if you're any good. So he trots the thing right up to Draco Malfoy. Now surely Hagrid knows this creature, with this innate sense of human decency or lack thereof, is not going to take a shine to Draco Malfoy. So the thing hurts Draco Malfoy very badly. At which point, Hagrid should lose his job, right? Nobody likes Draco Malfoy, but you can't do that. You gotta protect your kids. Hagrid, bad. Bad on you, Hagrid.
Wow.
That's...
Wow.
That's...
if Brenda Popwell, Bevan Sweeney, or ever go Hagrid pre-start. That was pre-start. That was, say, a couple of minutes. And apparently that was a minute of the 10 minutes or 7 minutes lead in to the race of Harry Potter.
Look, that's the future of broadcasting. That's how you're going to drive. That's how we're going to drive turnover here on trackside with N8 heading forward. That was as good a piece of nonsense as I've seen in a pre-start for a long time, and I've done some nonsense in my time.
Yeah, that was a goodie. If you have some bits of nonsense that you find on the internet, send them into us, and we'll get them on the show in our funny file. Let's get along to something a little bit more serious. A monster of a horse, Equinox. Let's look at a replay of his success in Tokyo in the Group 1.
Now peels out and starts to run on with Keita Tosaki. Equinox has given his head. Christophe Lemaire says go on Equinox, and he finds the front and he starts to stretch away. Goes past Gaia Force. Nothing really coming on other than Prognosis out wider, and also Danon Beluga. Equinox past the 200 has a winning margin. He will go on and win. It's by how much? Rattling home Justin Palace out wide, and Equinox goes back to back in the Temno show. Equinox, Justin Palace, Prognosis third, just ahead of Danon Beluga.
He's an absolute beast, isn't he? And he just puts such a margin on the rest of the horses. On the eye, it's magnificent. The clock also says it's magnificent too, Michael.
Yeah, he went 1:55.2 for the 2,000 metres. Now, they do have not a running start, but they don't start timing them till after the gates. So the gates are about 20 metres back from the 2,000 metre point. So they are moving as the timer starts. Hence, they go a bit quicker than they do in this part of the world. But there's always tempo in the major Japanese races. That's 5 Group 1s on end for the son of Kitasan Black, and he heads now to the Japan Cup, where he'll take on their superstar filly, Liberty Island. Japan Cup sometimes doesn't have much profile in this part of the world anymore. It's going to have massive profile after him. Of course, he's the horse who's the highest rated horse in the world at the moment, and the horse who won the Shima Classic in Dubai by a similar margin back in March. So great horse. Heading to a great Japan Cup.
Oh, he's a stunning type too, isn't he? And what about the crowd on track there to witness his victory? We spoke about it earlier. Legato heading towards the Golden Eagle in Sydney. Well, Ken Kelso on the line. Ken, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Mick.
Tell us about Legato. How is she, and how did she come through that last run?
Very well. She's come through it excellent. She had a nice gallop between races at Rotorua last Thursday. Very happy with the work. Bouncing out of her skin at the moment.
Yeah, that last bit of work, that gallop between races at Rotorua, that was sort of the final cog to be turned, was it, Ken?
Yeah, we were going to have an exhibition gallop or a trial, and there wasn't any trials, Emily, so we went for the exhibition gallop at Rotorua. She has a final gallop tomorrow morning here at the track, and then flies out tomorrow evening.
Ken, she looks a little bit bigger and around the rump a lot rounder than last year. Has she put on a lot of size for those people who haven't had the chance to get up close to her this campaign?
Yeah, she's definitely stronger. She's definitely a big girl now. She's about 20 kilos heavier than what she was last year, the racing weight. So, yeah, no, she's a very big unit now.
Rose Hill, Ken, for 1,500 metres and $10 million on Saturday. Do you think she'll be as comfortable or as dexterous around Rose Hill as somewhere like Flemington or Riccarton, where she seems to love the big tracks?
Well, yeah, probably that's one little question mark. I mean, she obviously loved Flemington, and we'd have been happy if this race had been at Flemington, but it's a $10 million race for 4-year-olds, so it's very hard to overlook. Right-handed, she's won right-handed, she works right-handed, doesn't seem to be an issue with her. So, we're quite comfortable, going to Rose Hill.
Ken, I'm sure you know her implicitly now after a couple of years of training and, of course, so many big races together. Is she exactly bang on where you would want her to be? Because this has been your plan for quite some time. Is the Legato you're taking to Sydney tomorrow, the Legato you want for the Golden Eagle?
Yeah, definitely. No, we're very happy with her. She's, okay, we missed the Arrowfield, but we had to back up at Matamata. She got a very soft run there. She's come through that all right. So, no, we're very happy. Bev and myself are very happy where she is at this stage. She's the work's been good. I think she's improved immensely since that exhibition gallop and a lot since the race. So, no, she's right on target. She's got a trip over there as well, which is like a couple of gallops. It's a big trip, as you know, but she coped with it going to Flemington. We've taken the same path as what we did of going to the Guineas. She'll fly over tomorrow after she works. Won't do much with her when she arrives. She'll just potter around. She's pretty right ready to go.
Ken, thank you so much for your time this morning. Just a brief chat, but great to hear that Legato is on track and we'll all be behind you heading towards that Golden Eagle.
Beauty. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, mate.
That's exciting, isn't it? $10 million race. It's probably come up a little bit stronger than we thought maybe a month ago because Amelia's Jewel is heading there. Kovalika is coming into the race. And Obama Buru Mai is now there from Japan. So great race. So exciting to look forward to it. And a really unusual situation for the second year in a row after I Wish I Win last year, Emily. In many ways, Derby Day at Flemington, which used to be such a huge deal for us, I think most of the New Zealand eyeballs will be up the road at Rose Hill.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy Saturday afternoon again, isn't it? With some fantastic Kiwi connections across the ditch. And then we build into Melbourne Cup week, don't we? And Tuesday of Melbourne Cup, we're going to have some great coverage on trackside. You can see on the Monday night, we've got the Melbourne Cup preview show. That'll be at 7:30 p.m. And on Tuesday, that live coverage starts at approximately noon. So make sure you're all tuned in for that. That's all we've got time for this morning on Weigh In. It's been great to have your company. We're counting down the days to Cup Week across the ditch and then, of course, New Zealand Cup Week here on trackside.
They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky, the Addams Family. Their house is a museum. When people come to see them, they really are a scream. The Addams Family.
Neat.